We're back now with the Representative Farhat from Dearborn on the off-the-record overtime at your suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, I see all, you guys have more fun on overtime, I feel like, than you do on the rain show.
Well, let's start out the fun with this. Are you going to finish the budget before July 1?
I mean, if it's up to us, we get it done way before July 1, I think.
So would you talk to these guys?
Yeah,
I would. Craig and I, Ron?
Yeah. I think we get it done before July 1. I think if I had to bet, if I had to bet, we'll get it done before July 1.
So why is there then this hesitancy, do you think, on Matt Hall's part to say it'll be done?
And I think I've heard him say he wants to get it done early. They put out targets. I've heard from Chair Bolin they want to get it done early. I very much am somebody who, again, you trust but verify, right? You keep working through the process and you make sure that if they're going to get it done, House Democrats are going to be ready to move on that budget when it moves.
What should House Democrats, let's say the budget, whether it's done or not, you go for the summer, you campaign. What should House Democrats campaign on to win back the House?
I think right now people want to return to functional government. I think that's a big piece of it. I think a big piece of it's affordability, and that will be ones that fight very hard to bring down your costs. So we mentioned prescription drug costs earlier. That's a big piece of it, right? Making sure that it's affordable to continue living in our state, you can thrive in our state, that we can attract high-paying jobs to our state, and making sure that Michigan continues to be a place where democracy is defended, where people can start a business and grow here, and that we're taking it seriously. We're seeing these investments in literacy that people are all championing now, but we forget they all started under the trifecta. Right, Chair Regina Weiss at the time, Senator Camilleri, they worked together to get a lot of these science readings, Matt Kolazar, to get these done. And so I'm glad to see that they're doubling down on the investments made during the trifecta.
Is this going to be a traditional budget process where the House passes their plan, the Senate passes their plan, and then we talk about it? Or are they talking about it behind closed doors and just going to come out with the consensus?
I think to credit the Speaker on the HEAT package, we can at least see the earmarks now are going through a more traditional, more transparent process. You see the committees, Jenkins Arno started doing some of the hearings on her earmarks. I would like it if it is a traditional process where the media and the public have more time to review these documents.
And lawmakers themselves.
And lawmakers themselves especially, to see these documents, right, and actually review them. I think there's been a lot of discharges to the floor last year. We saw them discharge their entire budget, basically, to the floor outside of the higher ed and K-12 budget. And that's unacceptable to me. I think that's we don't need to do that.
So you say the budget's going to get done by July 1st, but you sit here today and you don't even know what the process is going to be.
I think that's the minority, right? It's the perks of minority.
But you're a key person in this. They're going to need votes from your caucus to do this.
And I think when that time comes, we've seen a remarkable ability from Governor Gretchen Whitmer to bring Speaker Hall to the table alongside Winnie Brinks and get him to a fair deal like they did last year, where we were able to protect Medicaid, continue to invest in our education programs that we started under the Democratic trifecta. And so I'm confident that Governor Whitmer is going to bring Speaker Hall to the table and that the institution will course correct itself like it always does.
One more question on this for me. How much money from the rainy day fund do you support taking out right now?
If we choose instead to ask the wealthiest Michiganders, the richest Michiganders, to pay their fair share, we won't have to touch a dollar of that rainy day fund.
Really, but that's going to replace the property tax money.
Well, I think we can do more. There's a lot. I've had a lot of bills on this issue. If you look at it, we can do digital advertising. We can do a luxury sales tax. There is no shortage of good ideas when it comes to making sure we have an equitable tax system in Michigan.
So you're saying, hey, let's generate enough new revenue where we don't have to touch the rainy day fund.
We can do some modest cuts, but I think revenue is the sustainable way to go. I mean, using the rainy day fund it's a short-term fix on this problem. And if we're really going to try and make sure we have a structurally sound budget for years to come, we're going to have to look at revenue. It's going to go one of two ways. Either we find the revenue to sustain services that people in Michigan rely on, which I favor. I don't want to see people lose their health care coverage. I don't want to see seniors lose their in-home care. I don't want to see schools have to lay off teachers. If that's what we want to do, then we need to find a revenue to sustain those investments. And we can make some modest cuts and some modest belt tightening, but we really ought to be looking at how do we build a more robust budget that's durable, and that's going to be able to sustain these investments people have come to rely on.
Representative, you started this term as the ranking member on the House Appropriations Committee. For Democrats, you got into a disagreement with the Speaker. He took you off that position and then never replaced you with anybody. How would you describe your relationship with him now?
I mean, it's functional, right? I was elected to do a job that the people in Dearborn and Detroit sent me up here to do, and that's to represent them and to be their voice. And in the minority, these titles are kind of, they're nice to have on a business card, right? But for me, the real work gets done by the effort we put in. And we spend long hours in the Capitol. We make sure we work these relationships, and we get to know the budget. And my caucus put their trust in me when I had that title to be an expert on that budget, to be able to deliver for them, and to be able to stand up for the values that they believe in, that I believe in. And I think we've done that, and we'll continue to do that regardless of the title.
But how would you describe the Speaker to your people back home? I mean, your constituents ask you about the Speaker. How do you describe him to them?
You know, I really don't talk much about other elected officials to my
But he's
to my
the leader.
residents.
He's the leader of this chamber.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talk a lot about the work Governor Whitmer has done as the leader of our state, in Dearborn especially. She's done a great job, you know, including the Arab American community, the Muslim community, and just fighting for Michiganders across the board on affordability. You know, she's somebody who I've partnered very closely with on economic development. But, you know, the Speaker, I mean, he's fine. I appreciate he's come to Southeast Michigan a lot. He has the office of Southeast Michigan now where he does these things. But really, you know, my area, they've been focused on these longstanding relationships with Governor Whitmer and others who have really continued to invest in Southeast Michigan in a really robust way.
Let's hit some issues. Con, how are you going to vote?
I know I saw Labor put out some stuff on it. No, I mean, I think it'd be a great idea, but I probably will go against it, I guess.
Really?
Will be, no, if we do it right, look, what is wrong with getting people more involved with the process, right? Getting
So
people
in other
more
words, you're
involved.
not afraid of the far right, which is what the D's are saying, are going to come in and rewrite the Constitution. You won't recognize
I
it.
mean, I think, here's what
Is
I'll
the
say.
allegation.
Here's what I'll say. I think there's a fair argument to be made that con can result in a radical rewriting of our Constitution that overrides the votes that people had on a lot of proposals.
Representative, though, if you're saying that you think Lansing is dysfunctional
Yeah.
right now, do you really think that a con would be functional?
I think a con could be an interesting idea to consider, definitely.
In theory.
In theory. I mean, look, I think we should be able to.
Wait a minute,
so-
she didn't ask you if it was going to be interesting.
It would be interesting. But I think right now.
What was your question?
What was your
It
question?
would be dysfunctional.
My question was, one of the things that you said earlier is that Lansing right now is dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And the idea that trying to just manage a budget, right, is leading to dysfunction. This would open up the entire state constitution. Everything would be up for rewriting. So I'm just saying, if we can't even get a budget done on time, how could we actually consider that we would be able to rewrite the entire state constitution?
Well, you know, there's a lot of checks and balances to con, right? As we know, you got to get a vote done, then you got to get 148 people elected, and then whatever their work project is, they got to get voted on by the people in Michigan. So there's a lot of checks and balances there along the way, a little bit different than the state budget, right? I think, in practice, in theory, it'd be great to have 148 experts to get in there and modernize our state constitution. I personally have issues with the way our tax policy is. I would like us to be able to do a graduate income tax. Our constitution prohibits that explicitly, right? I think it prevents a localized sales tax in a lot of ways. I would like to see us allow that to happen, like states like Ohio and Texas can do. But I think the idea of con is messy. I think there's a lot of question marks there, maybe more than it's worth. And so, I mean, Labor and these groups are coming out saying against it. I for one, again, I only campaign for myself. I am not planning on running a yes campaign on it.
Speaking of other elections, when before we went to overtime, Tim asked you about your candidate for governor, and you hesitated. You're not endorsing yet. Why not?
Look, I want to look. Governor Whitmer's done a great job as a Democratic nominee and as a governor at including voices across the state. I'm still waiting for folks to come out to Southeast Michigan, come to Dearborn, talk to my community. And my community, I mean the city, not just Arab Americans, by the way, the working class of that city and in Detroit, and win over their support. I think I follow the will of my district very closely. I care deeply about my residents, and I'll never try and dictate to them who we should be supporting. I want to listen to them
What
and
about
see where
the
they're going.
former mayor of Detroit?
You know, he's been very well received in my district. I won't lie to you folks. He's been very well received. He's been somebody who's, been a very popular mayor in Southeast Michigan. He's built really strong relationships in the Arab business community, in the Dearborn, city of Dearborn. You know, under his leadership, they started a block party together where they actually bring Detroit neighborhoods and Dearborn neighborhoods together. And people forget, Dearborn was a sundown town for a long time. And he's broken that image and shattered it. So there's a lot to be said about the time and investment he's put into those relationships. And a Democratic nominee, and I'm saying it, where's the camera? That camera. The Democratic nominee
Wait a minute,
needs
that's
to
my
come.
camera.
Is that yours?
That's my camera.
Well,
Be
a Democratic
Just take
nominee
it over for a minute.
needs to make sure if they want to win this district and they want to win voters that are susceptible to a Duggan nomination or Duggan candidacy, to come and do the work now and don't wait too soon to November and get those relationships off the ground. Otherwise, you're going to be scrambling to find people that are going to be like, you know, you're just coming for my votes here. I've worked with this guy for 12 years.
You are talking about a vague Democratic nominee.
If it's Benson or Swanson.
Do you think Swanson has a chance to win the primary still as we sit here today?
If he look, if he's in the race,
Yes or no?
if he's in the race, he clearly thinks he has a shot.
No, I'm asking you.
Right.
Do you think he has?
If he has a shot,
Yeah.
I think anything's possible.
Do you think he has a shot to win still?
I think if Chris Swanson is able to hit lightning and have a moment where he's able to electrify the base, sure. I also won't discount the polling shows Benson at 1 right now, and she very clearly could be the nominee. But I'm extending the olive branch to any of them, by the way. Come to Dearborn. Come walk these neighborhoods with me. Come
None
meet
of them
the
have
folks.
been there yet?
Not in a way where I think they've sat down and been willing to have scrutiny, right? This is a community that feels very strongly. Again, Governor Whitmer has set the bar so high in my community. She's done a great job including people. She's done a great job with appointees, a great job with investments, a great job with ensuring that if there's an issue, you can pick up and call the governor's office, right? These people are auditioning now to be in that same seat. Some of them, as a sheriff in Genesee County, as the Secretary of State, great. How are you going to continue that tradition? What guarantees do we have as a Southeast Michigan, as a minority community?
U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
Who's your candidate?
Abdul
there?
Alad.
Why Abdul?
Abdul, I've known him for a while, worked with him at the county. I think he's very principled. He's a very straight shooter. He's somebody I think that can really connect with the base. And he's somebody who I think is, just an all-around good person. I think, Senator McMorrow, I've worked with her in Lansing. She's a great person too, Congresswoman Stevens. But Abdul is somebody who I think is going to get my vote in this election.
There's a lot of voters sitting out there, looking at these issues. Tim's asking you about issues. It's Sunshine Week.
Yeah.
The last day of Sunshine Week, weekday.
Well, you guys
If House Dems win a majority back, will you all actually hold a vote on FOIA?
I think you've seen the speaker do some stuff on transparency, and you guys gave him an award, so it's great. But I think FOIA reform is important. I think transparency is important. I think, for me, I've always been a long supporter of FOIA reform, and I can't speak for my entire caucus. I'm not able to do that, but I think FOIA would be a great idea.
Representative, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm still figuring that out every day.
Give me a guess.
I don't know. I think I want to continue doing good for the state of Michigan. That's what I want to do.
You want to be governor?
No, that's overrated.
All right. You want to, never mind. Thanks for doing overtime. Thanks to our great panel. And we'll see you all next week for more Off the Record.